Thanks very much, everyone, and welcome to Western Australia. Thanks, Gordon. Can I just begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and Richard Wally will be doing a welcome to country after I finish speaking. Can I also acknowledge all the distinguished guests here today, but in particular the Foreign Minister, Julie Bishop, Penny Wong, who understands here or about to be here, the Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister, the former Deputy Prime Minister, Kim Beazley, to Dawn Freshwater, the Vice-Chancellor of UWA, and Gordon Flake from UWA, and congratulations on organising such a large and diverse event here in Western Australia. Ladies and gentlemen all. Can I welcome you all, those of you from interstate and overseas, to the best state in the country. It is particularly pleasing for me to walk into this space and see such an enormous crowd of people who come from all over the world to my state on such a beautiful occasion, a beautiful day at a beautiful venue, so we can show off what we have on offer here in Western Australia. Western Australia is truly a remarkable place. Now, the program is extensive. I just heard 37 speakers with bells going off if you go over time. As Premier of Western Australia, I think I don't have to abide by that rule, Gordon. But you know, I can have you arrested if I want. But for appearance sakes, I will abide by the rule. A few things I'd like to talk about in terms of the event, in the Blue Zone theme. Very important theme to Western Australia. First thing is about our state, environmentally. You're in a state with a coastline of more than 12,000 kilometres. The major urban area, you're in it. There's only one. There's a few smaller communities along the coastline by international standards. And apart from that, it's an extraordinarily long and diverse coastline. So if you go to the north of the state, to the Kimberley, you'll find it's very tropical, very warm oceans, extraordinary reef systems along the northern parts of the state, extending all the way, in fact, down to Geraldton. And then the southern parts of the ocean environment, it's very temperate, very cold, huge amounts of wave activity, very different environment to the north of the state. In our oceans, we have two World Heritage listed areas. One is Ningaloo Reef, amazing reef of international significance. And the other is Shark Bay, that you may have heard of. Again, World Heritage listed now for some decades, both extraordinary. But it's far more than that. There's huge areas of whale breeding areas, there's amazing fish habitats, amazing reefs, and the like around the coastline of Western Australia. It never ceases to amaze me when I go and have a look at these areas. We have a huge preponderance of whales. Yesterday, in my own electorate of Rockingham, I climbed a hill at a place called Point Perrin. I looked out the ocean and I saw whales breaching off Perth. If you go to Ningaloo, which I was at a couple of weeks ago, you can go swimming in the ocean with whale sharks. We have a diverse array of, in fact, one of the only places in the world we're known for it, great white sharks here in Western Australia. And looking at the program, it looks like something out of Jaws, actually, the front page of your program. We have an amazing array of marine life that we are determined to protect and make sure that continues into the future. On top of that, we have a fishing industry, which is acknowledged internationally because the rock lobster fishery here in Western Australia, the most valuable part of our fishing industry, was the first one accredited by the Maritime Stewardship Council internationally as being sustainable. And it produces 400 million or thereabouts income to the state each and every year. And we are developing our aquaculture industry, both in the Kimberley and in the Midwest, and we hope to model our aquaculture industry on what has occurred in Tasmania with different species, but a sustainable, high employment generating aquaculture industry here in Western Australia, in the Midwest and the Kimberley. Now, a couple of issues, like everywhere else in the world, I just want to touch on them. One is pollution and plastics. Obviously, I hope this event takes forward those issues. I think about it from when I was a boy to when I am now, how old I am now. The plastics in the seas, I think, is one of the long-term threats to the entire planet. And plastics and pollution, I think, is something that needs to be addressed by forums such as this, and international events, because it is killing life on our planet, and we need to do more about it. We're going to do more about it as a state government, but obviously nations around the world need to do more about the preponderance and usage of packaging and plastic. Secondly, overfishing is obviously a huge issue around the world. We have pretty strict controls on sustainability here in Western Australia, but clearly a big issue around the world that needs to be dealt with. And I hope this event here today deals, at least discusses and works ways forward on both of those important issues. Now, the other part of Western Australia I was going to talk about briefly was the economy and defence. Western Australia, by any objective analysis, is the economic backbone of the country. 40% of the nation's exports come out of Western Australia, with 11% of the population. The highest tonnage port in the nation, in the world, is Port Hedland. And if you fly over Port Hedland, or you fly over Karratha for that matter, you'll see a large number of ore carriers off the coastline there, awaiting the products, in particular iron ore, that come out of those two ports. Highest tonnage ports in the entire world here in Western Australia. Our export figures are extraordinary. Without Western Australia's contribution to the nation's export income, the nation would have a huge trade deficit and would be in serious economic trouble. But it's Western Australia that carries that, and we intend to continue to ensure that that's the case here, that our state remains a major exporting state, generates huge amounts of employment for us, but also make sure that the nation's economy remains strong. We have a competitive shipbuilding industry that actually stands on its own. Doesn't just rely upon government work, stands on its own, sells its ferries in particular, but also luxury yachts and the like around the world. Another aspect of our maritime culture. When it comes to defence and high-tech issues, Western Australia is core to the nation. It was 1987, Kim Beazley here reoriented the nation's defence policy, so we went to a two-ocean navy. Up until then, virtually the entirety of our navy was based in Sydney Harbour. Now more than half is based here in Western Australia at HMAS Stirling in my electorate of Rockingham. What you see at HMAS Stirling on any given day is 5 or 6 submarines, a whole bunch of our nation's most advanced warships, and that will continue to grow and develop as years go by. The submarine presence here in Western Australia is crucial to the nation's defence, and we have a very high-tech, a very well-established training and work on submarines, both here in Western Australia, both in terms of maintenance, but also in terms of the establishment and training of submariners here in Western Australia, and the role they play around the region, obviously, and in the nation's defence is obviously very important. On top of that, in terms of other high-tech issues, the other weekend I was at Exmouth, Harold E. Holt, our naval communications station, which can send signals to submarines through the water, but also plays other communications roles, and I think it's even getting into space activities, is based here in Western Australia. It celebrated its 50th anniversary. Crucial part of the nation's defence infrastructure, major part of the world's, or the Western world's defence network. On top of that, the square kilometre array is being established here in Western Australia. Apparently that can look out into space, and they tell me can look back through time. One of my colleagues asked me once if he could look back and see where his hair had gone. But it is based here in Western Australia. And on Friday, I met with the European Space Agency, which has a major facility here in Western Australia. So you can see that our state plays a major role both in the nation's economy, but also our defence and in regional and international outreach when it comes to major technological issues and developments. Our universities here in Western Australia play a major role in that. So today we have UWA hosting this event. UWA is very internationally focused, but students, research and the like. Today's event is a part of that. Our other 4 universities also play that role, very much focused on attracting international students, undertaking that sort of role. Indeed, I myself, I'll be going to China very shortly, seeking international students, international tourists from China as part of our efforts to diversify and broaden Western Australia's economy. So can I thank you all for coming here? That's a brief snapshot of our wonderful state. If you're here, please make time to enjoy it, experience it, get out there and have a look. It really is one of the most magnificent, unspoiled, amazing places on the entire planet. Thanks very much for your presence here.